Hello and welcome to today's short demo of SAP Risk Management. Have you ever had issues explaining or picturing the causes, consequences, or even the context of a risk event? Well, SAP Risk Management Bowtie Builder can help you graphically represent those concepts and even go a step further, assess your threat level. Finally, we'll also see how you can mitigate your risk still in this graphical environment. Let's start by saying that you're interested in analyzing the reputational risk, which you can model in the middle of the screen. You can then define the complete context of the risk, including the organizational unit it belongs to, but also the risk category it should be attached to, for instance, management. Now that we've defined this context, we can define and document the drivers that could trigger my risk. Let's use the first one, for instance, commercial and legal disputes, and we'll give it a description, lawsuits. But also, let's assume that product and services performance could impact your reputation, especially if you have quality issues. Now that we've defined these drivers, we can also document the impacts that would be incurred by your risk. For instance, let's assume that you may have a loss of customers in case of reputational drop. But also, I think it's pretty safe to assume that reputation itself will be one of the impacts. For instance, a decline in reputation. Now that we've modeled this risk, we can go to the next step, which would be to assess it. And to do so, I simply have to go to the Assess Risk section. For now, the assessment is blank because we're just creating it. And I can progress into assessing the probability, but also each of the impacts individually. Let's start by the probability and by giving this risk a 45% chance of occurring. Concerning the impact loss of customer, I can assess it using a qualitative, quantitative, or scoring approach. I'll be using right now a quantitative and giving this impact a financial value. Concerning decline in reputation, I can select a qualitative approach and simply say that it would have a significant impact on my risk. Right, straight away, the risk assessment has been created, populated. As you can see right now, the inherent, residual, and planned residual risk level are at the same level because I haven't started mitigating my risk yet, which I'll do straight away. And to do so, I simply need to go to the mitigate risk section. Here, I could assign an action plan, a control, or a policy to this risk. And I'll actually select a policy because it's a great way of mitigating a risk, provided it's being published, of course. I know I have a quality assurance program, and I can safely assume that it will address my quality issues. But nevertheless, it might not reduce the lawsuits, and it might also not preventing me from having a loss of customers. Now I can progress to the next step, which would be to assess the completeness, effectiveness of this policy on my risk. And I can say that it is actually fully effective because, as you can see straight away, it's been published and the solution knows it. That's why the response completeness has been updated. Concerning the reduction, I can say that this policy helps me reduce my risk by 30%. And I can also define the mitigation efforts of this policy on my decline reputation. I can say that it has a high impact because I can show this policy to my customers. Now that I've identified, assessed, and mitigated my risk, the only thing left to do is to report on it. And in the summary tab, I have the explanation of my risk, its context, drivers, and impact, and I can also drill down into each of the responses themselves. Right, in a few minutes, I was able to document, analyze, and mitigate my risk very simply using SAP Risk Management Bowtie Builder. I hope this was useful. Stay tuned for more videos.